So hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned into TBD on the live stream or on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com out of Tijuana. I'm joined by Los Angeles-based musician Maral. So how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, totally. So, I guess how have you been holding up during like the quarantine? What have you been up to? How have you adapted? How do you like virtual gigs? The world has been pretty chaotic the past couple months, especially for those living in the US.
Yeah, I feel like everyone, I have my ups and downs.
Yeah.
There's definitely things that I've been struggling with, but at the same time, I try to kind of, when I'm talking about it, I try to just focus on the positive
Yeah,
because
that's cool.
there's so much negative that I could bring up. I have really enjoyed seeing how everyone in the community, at least in LA, has adapted to what's been happening and still being supportive of each other within the music
Oh,
scene.
totally, yeah.
There's still like a great, I still feel like there's a great support system within music, and
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't evaporated, even though we're not able to see each other in person and not go to shows. So that's been something really cool that I just like didn't know was possible. But yeah, like even without these like physical interactions, we're still able to support each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really awesome. And just personally, I've been able to have more time to like work on music because I get to work from home now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm less tired, and that's really awesome. I have to go to shows less.
Yeah, right.
So it's just like, that's sad, but at the same time, it's opened up avenues for me to like spend more time on music making. And that's how I feel like I was able to create my last album, Push,
Mm-hmm.
was due to the fact that I had more time. I mean, some of the songs I had made like in January and February, but like just the ability to spend more time on them, like even after I created them, was I think a result of being quarantined. And I've been pretty strict about not seeing people, just staying in my own little zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using that time to just like work on music and just like appreciate music and
Yeah.
support others as much as I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I found that like a common theme, at least among like the music community, is like, yeah, like, not much has come from like, I guess, the pandemic other than just having like more time to like focus on like yourself, like music, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like be supportive of like others in the music scene, even if it may be like, away from shows and like what we traditionally think of.
Or
So,
like traditionally think of ways to support each other. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
like kind of opening up our like yeah minds to like different ways of supporting each other, and just like also taking the time to learn. Like I feel like I've had more time to like learn about all these things that have been happening in the world, and just like
Oh, for
uh,
sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
learn about our place and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of just like and hopefully using that knowledge then to actually push for change that will be positive when things open up. So been
Yeah.
kind of working on that, like what's going to happen when things open up, especially in the music industry.
Yeah.
How can we make sure that all these things that we learned from the past year get actually implemented once things happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm scared that they won't, but I'm going to try really hard, and I am trying really hard to implement some changes that are long lasting.
Yeah, I guess this kind of ties into so like I've seen on your socials that you work with like Ninja Tune and you guys just recently like relaunched Big Dada.
Mhm.
Um, and Big Dada is like a pretty important label from what I've been reading about, especially with the relaunch. So like what can you tell me about your involvement with Ninja Tune and the relaunch of Big Dada and the importance of a platform like Big Dada for the BIPOC music community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been working at Ninja Tune for a couple years now. And the past year we decided to have these like weekly Black and POC meetings
Mhm.
where we all get together, all the Black and POC members, and then the head of Ninja Tune get together, and we kind of we were discussing everything that was happening and discussing deeply like the impact of systemic racism in the music industry,
Yeah.
and just like what can we do to like help combat this.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of deep discussions, and then we were just kind of thinking of like, okay, we're talking about it, but where's the action? You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Mhm.
we proposed this idea of the Black and POC members of staff taking control of Big Data and relaunching it as a label that supports Black and POC artists
Mhm.
exclusively.
That's awesome.
because we felt like, again, the systemic racism impacts how Black and POC artists grow.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what, they're at a disadvantage. So, it's up to labels and people in the music industry to provide those resources that
Mm-hmm.
their white peers are able to access so much easier. And then the white peers who are able to access those resources get signed to labels because they had those resources to grow to a point where a label wants to sign them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
then there's these insane amount of Black and POC creatives and musicians who are artists who are making like music that ends up impacting the mainstream or ends up
Mm-hmm.
impacting these white peers, and the white peers take that sound and then get signed to a label. So it's just like, it's just all messed up the way it
Yeah.
all works.
Mm-hmm.
It's been messed up in like taken advantage of to like an insane degree, and the power structure's all messed up. So we're like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we fix these power structures in a way that like is actually real?
Yeah.
So by giving power to the staff members, that's a whole new thing as well within like actual working at a label and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You see so much of the time that there might be diversity in the label, but it's in the assistant level or in the like lower
Oh
level
yeah.
of the label. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you grow, and how do you grow on your own terms? Because a lot of the time you'll see like a Black CEO at like a hip hop label, or like
Yeah.
at a, aren't only in the certain niches are you allowed to grow to like the executive level. So, what we're trying to do with Big Dada is now, historically it's like a hip hop label, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it's always been genre bending and like going, pushing music forward. So we're just
Mm-hmm.
trying to continue that legacy, but, not be beholden to any sort of genre or any sort of like, an artist needs to be a certain way before we sign them. It's more about just like the music and also the artist ethos and what they're trying to push within their own community. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, yeah, creating a community around it all. So really exciting stuff. And shout out to Ninja Tune for being down to try this experiment.
Yeah, seriously. That's like
Label do this.
yeah, seriously, that's awesome. I believe I also saw that you guys are like offering like resources and stuff on your website as well for like people that aren't signed as well.
Yeah, so we're really into the DIY, that sort of community as well. Like we
Mm-hmm.
think it's really important for people, again, to have the power themselves and to have the resources to create that power
Yeah,
themselves.
100%.
You're thinking education is such a big part of it. I mean, I myself, when I first started doing stuff, I didn't know anything. And
Mm-hmm.
I just learned as I grew. Like I didn't know anything about the music industry, and I just had to learn as I grew. So, to have that sort of resources section, I think would be really like, we were just like, if we were artists just starting out, what would we want? And that was
Mm-hmm.
something that we thought was special. And also, we're going to have an editorial page where we have writers come on and write about different topics, explore different communities, and just like, yeah, kind of help nurture that side of things as well.
Wow, that's like super amazing, and I feel like that is something that I've just like never seen in any like DIY or like music community like ever, you know? It's like
Yeah.
really cool to see something coming from like, an industry head like Ninja Tune or something that would be doing that for the DIY community and like BIPOC in general, because that's just like something you don't see unless it's like at like the straight up like roots level, you know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of times like those DIY musicians never have the resources to actually get outside of that, kind of like how you were saying. So,
Yeah.
that's just so cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's been like a dream of mine to do something like this for the last when I first started working in the music industry. I was like, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to people about it, and everyone was like into it,
Yeah.
but no one was like ready to take the action. But then now I think, everything, the way things have been happening, it's like, yeah, we actually need to take action now. Like people
Hmm.
are finally ready to take that step. And I think it's a little too late. Like, they're just
Yeah.
like, this should have been much sooner. But
Yeah.
you know, I hope that something like this helps inspire other labels. I hope it inspires the mainstream music industry,
Hmm.
because that's where I think the biggest change needs to happen.
Totally.
So yeah, there's a lot of work still to be done, but I'm so happy about this. Like I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, you're known for your unique take on club music blended with music from your Iranian heritage, and you just released "Feeding Off the Sweat," a crass remix, and your record "Push" in October on Leaving Records, as well as features on multiple comps like last year's Doom mix on Doom Trip Records, for example. So, You had to start somewhere. What can you tell me about Maral, your music project, and give us a big picture and bring us back to your humble beginnings and like early influences and like, how you started. Were you like involved in any previous projects or like, punk bands that led to like what Maral is now?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it all started with Soul Seek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I was in high school, I think I started approaching music as a more as a student, like of just like learning the history of music.
Yeah.
When I first started getting involved in music than an actual musician or artist. So I spent like most of my high school just like digging deep into all the different genres and subcultures and just like how these things grew. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like I was always very interested in how some new sort of music genre started and then how it grew and what it impacted and like the history behind it all. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I spent a lot of time exploring punk music in high
Mm.
school. And my Crass had like a huge impact on that, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I got really into like ska and dub
That's
and
awesome.
reggae. And I was always such a little, uh, what's it called? A snob about music. Like, I
Yeah.
always like, I like the first wave of this genre
Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah. That's funny.
Like third wave, but it's true. I mean, like so many genres, like it just gets diluted as it changes, but that's
100%,
not
yeah.
bad. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I'm less of a music snob now. I like to be like supportive of like all different things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I try
Mm-hmm.
not to be negative about music, but I do have these very like intense beliefs about it and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and like how it moves and who participates in it and like who gets lost. You know what I mean? So I'm always trying to like highlight the originators because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they get lost when like things get like diluted and turned into like kind of different genres or
Totally,
whatever. But
yeah.
like we gotta like celebrate the originators. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's been just a big part of my life from when I first started getting into music. And then um, a friend gave me Ableton and I just started playing around with Ableton in
Mm-hmm.
college and I started using it to DJ because I was making mixtapes for my friends a lot or mix CDs. And I was like, oh, I can make a mix CD for a dance party. So when we would have like house parties with my friends, I would make the mix CD that we would put in to like dance to.
Oh,
But
that's
then
sick.
I was like, oh, I can just DJ it live.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know much about DJing before that. So I kind of just taught myself to DJ using Ableton in a
Oh, wow,
really
that's sick.
weird way that I still use. And
Yeah.
like I didn't have any, like YouTube. I didn't know if there were tutorials or anything, but I just like clicked around and taught
Yeah, yeah,
myself.
yeah.
And then I started, getting really into experimental music and Animal Collective and stuff
Mm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
So me and my friend from college, we had like a little experimental duo where I would play like samples and stuff off of Ableton and he would do like drum sounds and like all these different things, kind of like in the vein of like Black Dice or something, but
Yeah.
a little bit more like with Persian influences or
That's
whatever.
awesome,
So
yeah.
that's when I first started kind of using Persian samples. And yeah, I was just making a lot of sample based music, just looping stuff. Like I hadn't learned how to produce in Ableton yet. I was just like doing loops
Mm-hmm.
and messing with them with effects. So that was kind of my thing for a while. And then we moved to LA and that's when I kind of got more involved with like DJing a lot more and like actually getting booked for real shows
Yeah,
because
yeah.
before that I was just playing basements and house parties
Mm-hmm.
and just playing like really experimental DJ sets, which like shout out to my friends for being down for me to play really weird music and weird, like I would put distortion on the songs and make it like noisy. So I'd make like a noise Moomba tone DJ set.
That's so
People would
sick.
dance, but it would be like harsh noise on
Yeah.
top of like a Moomba tone
That's
beat.
so sick.
And my friends were down with it, so that was nice of them to be down. And then I got to like explore that sound more in LA with like people outside of my friend group and
Mm-hmm.
see how they reacted to it. So I had like a monthly party at this bar called The Lash in downtown LA, and that was like where I got to like play things and also book people.
Yeah.
And that was my first chance to book shows, and that allowed me to meet a lot of cool people within the LA scene.
Okay.
And that kind of just grew it from there. And then, yeah, everyone was so supportive in LA. there's definitely like room to experiment and do
Mm-hmm.
my weird DJ sets. And then that kind of led to me producing because I wanted to make these certain sounds and it
Yeah.
wasn't like, or feelings, and I wasn't able to convey it through a DJ set.
Mm-hmm.
So I started producing, and that came about from I went to Red Bull Music Academy base camp.
Yeah.
I got invited to go, and I spent like 5 days with Kelman Duran, and Chai Boy, and like all these amazing producers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just using Ableton, and I like looked at how they were doing it, and they were like, making beats within it, and I was like, oh, that's how you make a beat in Ableton. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I can make beats in Ableton now.
Yeah.
So it kind of like really helped me to just have those 5 days to work on music with other experimental producers. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's so hard to get like experimental producers in a room together. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Or like to me, it was hard back then. Like I didn't know many people, so it was just like a really cool way to feel like there was a community and to learn from. And at the same time, a lot of experimental music exists online, like the communities. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
not enough space or money for people to like get together in a studio. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like a real actual studio. So I thought that was like really cool, and that helped me a lot. And that, yeah, since then I've just been messing around and meeting really cool people. So that's the
Yeah, that's so cool. So when you do like live mixing and stuff like that, were you always doing it through Ableton, or did you ever use like CDJs or like any of that type stuff?
so it's always been Ableton, but the
Mm.
last year I would get invited to play some shows where there were CDJs, and I was
Yeah.
like, all right, well, let me try these CDJs. And it's so fun when it's for CDJs. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I need it to be for CDJs to do what I want to do.
Oh, really?
But that, yeah, that's like a whole nother level that I'd love to explore more, but I just haven't had. I have one friend that has CDJs, and she's always like, "Come on over, we'll play together." But I just didn't have time
Mm-hmm.
before coronavirus to really
Yeah.
explore other methods. So if only time I would do it is like if I was playing a rave and they had it,
Yeah.
and I was like, let me not lug my like computer that has all my music ever that I've made
Mm-hmm.
to like this like rave,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's hard because I have this very specific way of DJing, where I have like 5 or 7 tracks, that's playing at the same time and
Mm-hmm.
looping different things and all this stuff. So I bet I could do it on CDJs, and I've tried, but it would take some time, I think, for me to get to the same level as Ableton.
Yeah, totally. I've messed around with like, or I've tried to mess around with like CDJs because we've had some at K, or we have some at KCSB. And
Oh,
we have
that's
a
great.
yeah, we have a few programmers that their whole show is just like a 2 hour long like DJ mix or something like that, and they do
Yeah,
like vinyl mixing, or there's like some that do like techno and stuff where it's like on the CDJs. I can never really get the hang of it, but yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, they're
Um,
fun.
yeah, they're so cool. So, were you ever involved in like the LA rave scene, like the underground rave scene at all, like with Vertex and stuff like that?
Yeah, I played Vertex a bunch. I
That's cool.
loved that venue. I thought the people who ran it were awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like I played mostly warehouses for a
Okay.
very long time, and only recently was I getting to play like real venues with like, and raves have good sound system too, but like
Mm-hmm.
real venues with like a built-in sound system that you're not having to carry in.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally. Yeah.
so yeah, I've had both worlds now at this point, but definitely grew through the rave scene in the warehouse party. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that, everyone who put those on, because that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. So, a lot of your music is like sample based, like we were talking about. For example, for those unaware, Crass, the legendary anarchist punk band, released all the stems from their record, and that's kind of like what you used for your most recent like Crass remix. Um, so, what can you tell me about sampling as an instrument? I know you have like a workshop coming up with Coaxial about this, but can you give us like a preview of what your workshop is going to be and like, your take on that?
Yeah, this is a good little, try before I do my workshop,
Yeah.
basically. I mean, I think of sampling as an instrument because it allows people who maybe don't have the abilities or the time to like learn the guitar or to learn drums or
Mm-hmm.
whatever to make music that expresses their history. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But whether it be your ancestral history, like I sample Iranian music, or
Mm-hmm.
whether it be your environmental history or just like your regular life, like that's valid to sample too. You don't have to like dig deep into your like history of culture to sample. You can
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sample what is around you and it's all about how it goes through you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Which is the same thing as playing an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like one guitarist, they can have the same technical abilities, but it's like how it goes through their like soul filter that matters. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, sampling is the same thing as playing the guitar because again, it's how it goes through your own filter that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like such a freeing thing to sample because you are able to express yourself. And if you cut it up in certain ways, it becomes an instrument. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And if
Mm-hmm.
you affect it enough and like you play around with it enough, it becomes its own like thing, its own type of instrument. And then you see how it reacts with other things. Like, nowadays I have a track that is half my productions, half samples. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like I see how it all plays together, and the samples are as valid as like the things that I actually play on like a synth or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
That's
it just feels
awesome.
like a freeing thing.
So is this kind of like the mindset that you like use to go into for like push and stuff like that?
Yeah, for push, I really wanted to explore actually working with people who can play instruments. Like
Mm-hmm.
after Mahur Club, I was like, oh, I really want to work with people who can play drums, who can
Mm-hmm.
play guitar, blah blah blah, and like figure out a way where I can incorporate my sound into like a live music setting.
Mm-hmm.
And then coronavirus happened, but even before that, I was just too busy to explore that idea and
Mm-hmm.
like actually spend the time sitting with people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was kind of figuring out like my own way of doing it. And then coronavirus happened, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm just going to figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
And then I realized, yeah, these samples can be a band. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I
Mm-hmm.
can make this Iranian like flute sound like an electric guitar,
Mm-hmm.
or I can have this like classical singer sound like the lead singer in like a rock band if I
Yeah.
want to. You know what I mean? So kind of like reinventing what these samples could be used as. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Or like I'll take a voice and make it into like a guitar sounding thing.
Yeah.
So like you're able to make any instrument you want using effects and affecting the samples you have. Like Ableton is so cool. You can make a bass line out of like someone talking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of cool things you can do where you can make your own instruments using the samples.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. My friends would experiment with like, weird experimental like kind of sampling type deals and stuff like that. What was it called? Dude, it's like they would take one sound and they would like stretch it really far and it'd just be like this really long sample that would sound complete. It was called granular synthesis is what it is. Have you heard of
Mhm.
that? Yeah,
Mhm.
and they would like study that at like school with like this professor called
Oh,
Curtis Rhodes.
yeah, they'd study it. That's cool.
Yeah, this professor Curtis Rhodes at UCSB, he like wrote a program for granular synthesis, and like that's where a lot of his research is. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I feel like that was just like a really cool take on like experimental sampling. Like where you take one sound, like it could be like a 1 second sound, and you can create like an entire song out of like a 1 second sound using like granular
Yeah.
synthesis. It's so crazy. Um,
Yeah, I get that.
that's really cool though. So, tell me about your work and involvement with Dublab. So it's always great to find, music from a great musician who's also involved in like a community radio station. So like, how did you get involved? Like, what's the premise of your show? Like, I know you have some like amazing guests on your show as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved radio, college radio, and just like when I
Mm-hmm.
first moved to LA, I discovered KXLU, and I was like, "Holy, this is insane!
Yeah.
Next level music at all
Yeah.
times."
Mm-hmm.
And then I started exploring more, and I mean, actually, I had known about Dublab before I moved to LA because of Animal Collective.
Mm-hmm.
I know Animal Collective like supported them and had been on Dublab for a while. So I was like, what is this? Like, what is a community radio station? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know about what this was.
Uh-huh.
So when I moved to LA, I went to like a talk that they put on dance hall music
Mm-hmm.
and the impact of dance hall music on like just like every single type of music. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Just like
Yeah.
the impact of dancehall music. And it was like a lady had just put out a book on Jamaican dance hall signs, like the
Mm-hmm.
actual signs. So it was like a really cool talk, and Dublab hosted it, and I was like, oh damn, I really want to be involved with this like community. So I somehow, yeah, I knew one of the Dublab DJs from a mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I started talking to him and, just like befriending him. And we, had a lot of similarities in the music we like and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And then I also met Callie. The other person was Chris Kissel, who has like an amazing Dublab show
Oh yeah,
every.
I love Contact Wave. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Chris Kissel's amazing, and he helped like get me, introduced to what Dublab is. And
Mm-hmm.
then Callie, who also has like a really amazing Dublab show, she was at I did like a Rebel Music DJ set somewhere, and she was
Mm-hmm.
there, and she came up to me and just started talking to me, and we became friends, and she helped me. She was the one who like had me on as her guest,
Mm-hmm.
and then like helped pitch me to Dublab. So it was just like she was the one who helped me get my show basically, and it was just a dream come true to have like access to like an actual like radio
Yeah,
studio,
totally. Yeah.
and just like have access to bring guests in, and like I use the guests to always meet new people. Like I try to like contact people I'm not like close with to be
Yeah.
as my guests to expand and
Mm-hmm.
bring them into the Dublab community. So yeah, it's been like an amazing thing. And what I love about Dublab is like they didn't give a care at all about my social media following. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's what's sick.
how
Yeah.
many opportunities you have to have a certain like streams or certain social media numbers in order to even be like considered.
Is that really a
And
thing? I didn't know that. That's wild.
yeah, I just feel like so many things. It's like about your clout
100%. Yeah.
before you even get considered. But like
Mm-hmm.
I was still at the beginning of everything when I started my Dub Lab show. So they were really like I thought that was really admirable. And ever since then, I've been working with them closely with Mark Frosty
Mm-hmm.
and Ale, but the founders. They're
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
amazing people. Just really, just always trying to just push music forward and support in a very different way than most of the music industry
Mm-hmm.
does their support. So, oh, such a great community, and yeah,
Yeah. That's
oh, quality music.
Yeah, they're so cool, and I know they're always like pushing the boundaries with like their programmers and stuff like that. They just started a low power station, or you probably know it, like the one in Burbank, I think.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned you lived in Burbank, but yeah, they have like a low power there now, which is pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
Run by the guy from like Son of Ra, I think.
Oh,
So
damn! I didn't remember this. That's crazy. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, isn't that pretty wild? I
Yeah.
had no idea until I had Chuck Soho on the show once, and he was telling me, like,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that you know, the low power or whatever, I forget what it's called, but it's run by the guy from Son of Ra, and I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. Totally had no idea, but
Yeah, Chuck is amazing. His music is awesome. So
literally so good, one of my favorites. Chuck's sick.
yeah.
So like, what are your thoughts on the importance of community radio?
Hmm. Well, I think again that kind of like focus on the community than the individual. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
this like ability to go beyond yourself. I think
Yeah.
so much is now so self-focused, and like we're kind of even forced to be so self-focused. You know what I mean? With
Hmm.
like how you are expected to participate in social media,
Yeah.
and how you're expected to participate within just like promoting your music or being an artist or doing any of these things. It's so like inward and like narcissistic kind of.
Hmm.
But with Dublab, you're able to do things that are music oriented that are beyond yourself. You know
Yeah.
what I
Totally.
mean? Like
Hmm.
so much of music is like you're forced to be like so about yourself, but it's
Hmm.
like, wait, why can't music be about beyond yourself? Because music seems like something that's beyond yourself. Like true music seems like it's like from another realm. So you can't even say that it's you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it feels like a like another plane of like existence or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's like trying to promote music using this like you
Hmm.
feels like a little too much for me. Like it's just like not the right way to me. So I feel like Dublab allows you to like kind of go beyond that and help your community, but at the same time just celebrate music.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
like celebrate music
Hmm.
outside of like this like just promoting it sort of thing. You know what I mean? Everyone's just like digging music and
Yeah.
geeking out about it. And it's just like this pure, it seems very pure to me.
It's very
When,
pure, and yeah, and there's just like a lot of like empathy in like community radio,
yes,
I feel like, because you're able to connect with like the community that's like, listening to it. Whereas like if you're listening to like mainstream radio and stuff, it's like there's no real like connection to like what's being played
yeah.
or anything. So it's like when you
Well, they're
hear
not
some.
even deciding what they play.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. They're
So,
not even deciding. It's like all of like the promo companies and stuff like that, like the big major label, all that stuff. And
yeah.
community freeform radio is just like so special because like, none of the programmers are told what to play. Other than I
No.
think like maybe the music director will sometimes suggest stuff, but other than that, it's like, play whatever you want. And then you have like that little following that's like, oh, I really dig this because this person listens to stuff that like I like. And
Mhm.
there's just that like mutual connection between like someone you don't even know and like
That's
someone
true.
that's just like spinning music on the radio. Yeah, it's just a great thing for the community. And it can be
Yeah,
used in so many ways, not even just music, like, social justice, like,
that's true.
everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, community radio is awesome. So we're gonna jump into some like fan questions and stuff. We have a couple. So one is from Chuck Soho, and he wants to know what Maral's favorite basketball team currently and of all time.
Oh, that's so funny. That's great. Yeah, I've been tweeting about basketball because we just got into it last year, I guess during quarantine, because
Yeah,
it's like a fun thing to watch that's like active while I'm being like very unactive.
yeah.
But I love basketball, and I guess my favorite team, this is a hard one right now because when I watch a game, I just like decide right then and there who I'm into at the time. But
Yeah,
the teams that I really like obviously are like the Nets and then the Lakers. And I was like really into the Miami Heat and the Nuggets, like
yeah,
the last like what the playoffs or whatever. But I think that's changed now. I think now I'm into the Nets and the
yeah.
Lakers. I'm not like, I'll just root for whoever is like killing it during that game,
Yeah.
or I'll just root for both of them. I'm just there to watch them like have fun and do really good jobs.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know nothing about basketball, so like whenever I'm watching, I'm kind of just in the same place where I'm just like, yeah, like go this team. I don't know, their colors look cool. Looks like they're playing well, like.
Yeah, but it's fun to get into. Like it's such
Yeah.
a interesting sport, and yeah, everyone just like the quality of the game is so high. So it's just
Hmm.
like high quality. Like just seeing people kill it is nice.
Yeah. So we have another question from someone via Instagram, and they say, what are their take on the Breeders, pod or Last Splash?
Oh, that's the question. That's my favorite question ever. Okay. I love the Breeders so much. Like whenever I listen to the Breeders, I feel like I'm gonna cry. Like that's how much I love them. Like I love everything Kim Deal does. Like I'm gonna start crying right now as I talk about it. But like I just feel like they're the epitome of like someone who was in a band and kind of like wasn't the focus of the musicianship and stuff like that, but then
Yeah.
she like broke through and just expanded the world, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
like what you can do with being in a band, and
Hmm.
like the way she produces things. And like I mean, I think I like Last Splash better than Pod, but that's like just like saying things. So, I
Yeah.
love both albums, and I kind of actually listen more to the later albums. Like Mountain Battles is like one album that I really, really like.
Yeah.
So, but like for me, every Breeders album, like I can listen to it top to bottom. Each one has like, amazing, like, you know, all the songs are very interesting to me, and the
Yeah.
production and how she like is really focused on what the sound is. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like if she wants to drums, like
Yeah.
she's really focused on like getting those drums to sound as she wants them to.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just like that sort of focus on the sound aspect of it all and how that all sits within the song,
Hmm.
I think has influenced me so much. And then also seeing the Breeders live and how Kim Deal the whole time is just smiling. Like she's just like smiling the whole time she's playing live. Like as she's singing, she's just
Yeah.
smiling. And it's just like the best feeling ever to see her just enjoy it so much. And it
Yeah.
just feels pure, you know? So yeah, I think Last Splash more than Pod, but Pod was the first album I heard. So it
Yeah.
holds a special place in my
That's
heart.
awesome. I love that you love the Breeders so much.
Oh my God, I
They're
love them
so
so
cool.
much.
Would you say that they had like any influence on any of your music and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think definitely the last album. I think just like learning how much Kim Deal spent on the sound. Like there was like this documentary on the Deal sisters on YouTube. It was like a Swedish documentary or something, like a Dutch documentary,
Yeah.
and it's not on YouTube anymore, which is so sad. But I used to watch that, like go revisit it, and like it showed them in the studio recording one of the albums, and like just seeing the way that she was like so focused on the
Hmm.
sound aspect of everything. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, like it seems like a just like a indie grunge band or something,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? But then there's just so much more to it,
Yeah.
and like, you hear it after you like that clicks in your head, and
Hmm.
that sort of focus on sound definitely impacted me and how I like spend time on the sound and like wanting the bass to sound a really certain way and
Hmm.
like what that conveys.
Yeah. That's awesome. I saw the Breeders play only once, and that was like the first time I had ever heard of the Breeders seeing them live.
Oh
But
wow,
yeah,
that's
I
great.
saw them at the Hollywood Bowl with like Neutral Milk Hotel, and
Hmm.
I was like, I feel like this band sounds nothing like Neutral Milk Hotel. And then like when I get there, I was like, wow, this is so sick. And I went with my older brother who like isn't really into like indie music too much at all, but he's like, I know their song Cannonball, and he's like, 18 years older than me, so he's like, yeah, this song was like really popular back in the day, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. But yeah, the Breeders are awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. So I guess that like brings us about towards the end of the interview. Did you have anything you would like to add before we finish up? And like, where can people keep up with like your projects?
Mm. Yeah, I feel like I was thinking about it. I released so much music last year, and I need to figure out how to like organize it all in one place. A lot of it was on compilations. I did a bunch of remixes,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, I try to have everything in my like Instagram, even though I hate social media, but I think Instagram is a cool place, like
Yeah.
in terms of just sharing music.
Mhm.
Like for a long time, I was just sharing my music through 1 minute videos on Instagram, and like
Mhm.
that's where they would just exist, and
Oh,
like that,
really? That's crazy.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
that's cool.
that was like where I was sharing my music until I released Malheur Club as like a full thing.
Mhm.
But like almost every song on Malheur Club had already been shared on Instagram as like a 1 minute video. And I make my like little experimental videos for it.
Mhm.
So that's always where I'm sharing new music, just because I feel like it's a cool platform to share music in. And
Mhm.
like sometimes I want it to just be the streaming platform, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Where
yeah.
I can just go through and just like listen to music and watch people's videos and work and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So that's definitely where I think you can kind of keep up with what I'm doing. But yeah, I think just like exploring Bandcamp in general is fun. Like just explore Bandcamp, have fun with it. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's my music or not. But yeah, and if you want to check out my Dublab show, I always have good guests on. So I'm excited for my next guest actually. I'm gonna have this artist called Tickly Feather
Oh,
on
wow.
my guest as my guest. She just recorded an album with Avi Tare and Deacon.
Oh, wow,
Uh,
that's sick.
yeah, so that's really exciting. And they have one single out now, so everyone should check it out. But Animal Collective has been such a huge influence on me. So anytime I get to do something related to that world, I'm always psyched.
I guess before we go, do you want to talk about Animal Collective a little bit? Sorry, just my friend Maddie that usually sits in on these interviews with me would love talking to you about Animal Collective because that's like one of their like all-time favorite bands, and I wish they were there because I don't know too much Animal Collective other than like what was like really popular, but they like dove into it. They know like all of like the Animal Collective lore, like all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could talk about Animal Collective for hours. I used to feel like I could do a college course on Animal Collective and like their impact on, the music ecosystem.
Yeah.
I feel like, the way that they incorporate samples and kind of like atmospheric sounds within their music was like super influential
Hmm.
on how I approach music making, and just like hearing Person Pitch, Panda Bear's album, you know, that was like, oh, so you can make a whole album out of sampling
Mm-hmm.
in this totally unique way. Like my first example of sampling obviously was through hip hop music, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, you know, electronic music. But then Person Pitch was like this whole nother way of sampling that like I hadn't really like seen
Mm-hmm.
before. So that kind of really unlocked that there's still stuff to explore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's still ways to make new sounds and new music. Like it's so, you know, Animal Collective to me like kind of like epitomizes that, like that exploration
Mm-hmm.
aspect of music making,
Yeah.
where like, you know, no album is the same as the last, and like they're always pushing themselves to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of something I always think about is like, yeah, I want to do something. I don't want to get like stuck in one sound. So how do I like keep pushing to move forward? And that was what push was like a way to push myself forward
Oh,
from
wow.
like the
Yeah.
Mahu Club sound, which I could
Yeah.
have done that sound like so much more. And I
Mm-hmm.
still have some songs within that way, but I wanted to just try something new.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like they influence everything, and I go see them live anytime I can, and
Yeah.
that's a whole nother aspect of it, is that when you see them live, each time it's different. Like they'll play the same set of songs that they played
Mm-hmm.
maybe the day before. Like I'll go see them 2 days in a row, you know,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
it's like the transitions and the way they play it is different.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope to convey with my music. I mean, the same thing is with Black Dice and Eric Copeland.
Mm-hmm.
It's like both have been really influential on how I approach music making, and just like the how you can go beyond what you think a song should sound like, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Totally.
So they're definitely, yeah, I think one of the biggest influences on my whole sound. And then, you know, then there you can go from all other different bands. But
Yeah.
like, always like, should I tell people that I love Animal Collective? Like in the, you know, in the club, like, you know, if someone's like, yeah, what's your favorite music? I'm like, do I tell people at the rave that I love Animal Collective? But I think, you know, people are always down
Yeah.
to make
Right.
it mad about it. But it
Yeah.
is like a funny band to be super obsessed with when you're mostly in the electronic world as opposed to like the indie world or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And like I never really knew that Animal Collective had like such like a deep following until, you know, I met my friend Maddie at KCSB, and they were just telling me like about some of that stuff, and I'm just like, dude, this is way past me. Like I would have never thought that like any of this, you know, like there's a whole like subreddit dedicated just to like Animal Collective and
Oh,
stuff.
there's a whole forum.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I was a part of this forum. I mean, technically I've been a part of this forum for 10 years now. You
That's
know what I
crazy.
mean? Of like, I still go check it. Like it's an Animal Collective forum, but
Yeah.
I used to be like heavily involved in the forum. And I met someone in LA who used to be in the forum too.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we used to be on this like Animal Collective forum
That's so
together.
crazy.
But yeah, it was like a good community in college to have where I could just like geek out about
Yeah,
music
totally. That's
and
awesome.
share live recordings. I feel like the fan base for Animal Collective is similar to the Grateful Dead fan base, in
Oh,
that everyone's
totally,
obsessed
right?
with their live recordings. And I have like on a hard drive, I have like 2 days worth of live recordings, like hours long, like 24 plus hours of live recordings.
That's crazy. That's so cool.
But I don't really listen to those as much anymore. But I feel like just spending that much time on it in college, like way more time than I spent on actual school,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
impacted, you know, how I am now.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah.
Somehow Animal Collective's the one.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you for answering that. I see. I just wish my friend Maddie was here. They'd have such a
Yeah,
good
we got.
time.
I'm down to chat deep with her at some at some point.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna have to get you guys back together on like a Zoom call or something, and just go deep on Animal Collective, because that would honestly be so good. I feel like that would probably take up the entire interview or something, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that brings us to the end of the show, but I have one more question I have to ask you, and I ask all my guests this question. So, it's kind of a big one. Are you ready for it?
Mhm.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So, a rat is going to jump into your mouth. Do you want this rat to jump into your mouth head first or butt first, and why?
I guess head first, because it would just be cuter. Like, you know, when the mouse is, or the rat's about to be here, you can see very deep inside its eyes. And
Yeah.
it'd be like an little connection. So
Give it a little kiss. Give it a little kiss. You can look it right in the eyes. Give it a little kiss.
yeah, exactly. It would be cute if it was through, head first, but first it wouldn't be cute.
That's
So
not, yeah, that's not cute. That's, yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that tail. You want nothing to do with the tail. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, it's too much.
Yeah. But anyways, I love that you answered with the cute. I love that, dude. I've been getting such different answers recently. I just love that. It's so good. It's the beauty of this question. It's always different.
Yeah, that's a fun question.
So I think that's all we have for today. So thanks for tuning in to TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara. And, every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. and NetNet Radio every Saturday, 8 p.m. out of Tijuana. This is Maral out of Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being on the show, Maral.
Thank you.